Continue reading Krishna book, chapter 77 by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, The Deliverance of Salva. After talking with his charioteer, the son of Daruk, Pradyumna could understand the real circumstances. Therefore he refreshed himself by washing his mouth and hands, and after arming himself properly with bows and arrows, he asked his charioteer to take him near the place where Salva's commander-in-chief was standing. During the short absence of Pradyumna from the battlefield, Dyuman, Salva's commander-in-chief, had been taking over the positions of the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty. Appearing on the battlefield, Pradyumna immediately stopped him and, smiling, shot 8 arrows at him. With 4 arrows he killed Dyuman's 4 horses, and with 1 arrow his chariot driver. With another arrow he cut his bow in 2, with another he cut his flag to pieces, and with the last he severed his head from his body. On the other fronts, heroes like Agada, Satyaki and Samba were killing the soldiers of Salva. The soldiers staying with Salva in the airplane were also killed in the fighting, and they fell into the ocean. Each party began to strike the opposite party very severely in a fierce, dangerous battle that continued for 27 days without stopping. While the fight was going on in the city of Dwarka, Krishna was staying at Indraprastha with the Pandavas and King Yudhishthira. This fighting with Salva took place after the Rajasuya Yagya had been performed by King Yudhishthira and after the killing of Shishupala. When Lord Krishna understood that there was great danger in the city of Dwarka, he took permission from the elder members of the Pandava family, especially from his aunt Kunti Devi, and he started immediately for Dwarka. Lord Krishna began to think that while he was staying in Hastinapur with Balaram after the killing of Shishupal's men must have attacked Dwarka. On reaching Dwarka, Lord Krishna saw that the whole city was greatly endangered. He placed Balaramji in a strategic position for the protection of the city, and he himself asked his charioteer, Daruka, to prepare to start. He said, Daruk, please immediately take me to where Salva is staying. You may know that this Salva is a very powerful, mysterious man. Don't fear him in the least. As soon as he got his orders from Lord Krishna, Daruk had him seated on the chariot and drove very quickly towards Salva. The chariot of Lord Shri Krishna was marked with the flag bearing the insignia of Garuda, and as soon as the soldiers and warriors of the Yadu dynasty saw the flag, they could understand that Lord Krishna was on the battlefield. By this time, almost all the soldiers of Salva had been killed, but when Salva saw that Krishna had come to the battlefield, he released a great, powerful weapon which flew through the sky with a roaring sound like a great meteor. It was so bright that the whole sky was lit up by its presence. But as soon as Lord Krishna appeared, he tore the great weapon into hundreds and thousands of pieces by releasing his own arrows. Lord Krishna struck Salva with 16 arrows, and with showers of arrows he overpowered the airplane just as the sun in a clear sky overpowers the whole sky by an unlimited number of molecules of sunshine. Salva struck a severe blow to Krishna's left side, where the Lord carried his bow, Sharanga, and as a result the Sharanga bow fell from Lord Krishna's hand. This dropping of the bow was indeed wonderful. Great personalities and demigods who were observing the fighting between Salva and Krishna were most perturbed by this, and they exclaimed, Alas, alas! Salva thought that he had become victorious. And with a roaring sound he addressed Lord Krishna as follows, You rascal, Krishna, You kidnapped Rukmini forcibly. Even in our presence, you baffled my friend Shishupala and married Rukmini yourself. And in the great assembly at King Yudhishthir's Rajasuya Yagya, while my friend Shishupala was a little absent-minded, you took an opportunity to kill him. Even thinks that you are a great fighter and that no one can conquer you. So now you'll have to prove your strength. I think that if you stand before me any longer, with my sharp arrows I shall send you to the place where from you will never return. To this Lord Krishna replied, "A foolish Salva, you are talking nonsensically. You do not know that the moment of death is already upon your head. Actual heroes do not talk much. They prove their prowess by practical exhibition of chivalrous activities." After saying this, Lord Krishna in great anger struck Salva on the collarbone with his club so severely that Salva began to vomit blood and tremble as if he were going to collapse from severe cold. Before Krishna was able to strike him again, however, Salva became invisible by his mystic power. Within a few moments, a mysterious unknown man came before Lord Krishna. Crying loudly, he bowed down at the Lord's lotus feet and said to him, "Since you are the most beloved son of your father Vasudeva, your mother Devaki has sent me to inform you of the unfortunate news that Salva has arrested your father and taken him away by force, just as a butcher mercilessly takes away an animal." When Lord Krishna heard this unfortunate news from the unknown man, he at first became most perturbed. Just like an ordinary human being, his face showed signs of grief, and he began to cry in a piteous tone. "How could that happen? My brother Lord Balaram is there, and it is impossible for anyone to conquer Balaramji. He is in charge of Dwarka city, and I know he is always alert. How could Salva possibly enter the city and arrest my father in that way? Whatever Salva may be, his power is limited. So how could it be possible that he has conquered the strength of Balaramji and taken away my father, arresting him as described by this man? Alas, destiny is after all very powerful." While Sri Krishna was thinking like this, Salva brought before him in custody a man exactly resembling Vasudeva, his father. These were all creations of the mystic power of Salva. Salva addressed Krishna, "You rascal, Krishna, look, this is your father who has forgotten you and by whose mercy you are still living. Now just see how I kill your father. If you have any strength, try to save him." The mystic juggler Salva, speaking in this way before Lord Krishna, immediately cut off the head of this false Vasudeva. Then without hesitation he took away the dead body and got into his airplane. Lord Krishna is the self-sufficient Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet because he was playing the role of a human being, he became very depressed for a moment. And if he had actually lost his father, but at the next moment he could understand that the arrest and killing of his father were demonstrations of the mystic powers which Salva had learned from the demon Maya. Coming to his right consciousness, he could see that there was no messenger and no head of his father, but that Salva had left in his airplane which was flying in the sky. He began to think of slaying Salva. Krishna's reaction is a controversial point among great authorities and saintly persons. How could Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the reservoir of all power and knowledge, be bewildered in such a way? Lamentation, aggrievement, and bewilderment are characteristics of conditioned souls, but how can such things affect the person of the Supreme, who is full of knowledge, power, and all opulence? Actually, it is not at all possible that Lord Krishna was misled by the mystic jugglery of Salva. He was displaying his pastime in playing the role of a human being. Great saintly persons and sages who are engaged in the devotional service of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, and who have thus achieved the greatest perfection of self-realization, have transcended the bewilderments of the worldly concept of life. Lord Krishna is the ultimate goal of life for such a saintly persons. How then could Krishna have been bewildered by the mystic jugglery of Salva? The conclusion is that Lord Krishna's bewilderment was another appearance of his Supreme Personality. When Salva thought that Krishna had been bewildered by his mystic representations, he became encouraged and began to attack the Lord with greater strength and energy by showering volleys of arrows upon him. But the enthusiasm of Salva can be compared to the speedy march of moths into a fire. Lord Krishna, by hurling his arrows with unfathomable strength, injured Salva, whose armor, bow, and jeweled helmet all scattered in pieces. With a crashing blow of Krishna's club, Salva's wonderful airplane burst into pieces and fell into the sea. Salva was very careful, and instead of crashing with the airplane, he managed to jump onto the land. He again rushed toward Lord Krishna. When Salva ran swiftly to attack Krishna with his club, Lord Krishna cut off his hand, which fell to the ground with the club. Finally, deciding to kill him, the Lord took up his wonderful disc, which shone like the brilliant sun at this time of the dissolution of the material creation. When Lord Krishna stood up with his disc to kill Salva, he appeared just like a mountain with the red sun rising over it. Lord Krishna then cut off Salva's head, and the head with its earrings and helmet fell to the ground. Salva was thus killed in the same way that Vicaru was killed by Indra, the king of heaven. When Salva was killed, all his soldiers and followers cried, "Alas, alas!" While Salva's men were thus crying, the demigods from the heavenly planets showered flowers on Krishna and announced the victory by beating drums and blowing bugles. At that very moment, other friends of Sisupala, such as Dandavakra, appeared on the scene to fight with Krishna and avenge the death of Sisupala and others. When Dandavakra appeared before Lord Krishna, he was extremely angry. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 77th chapter of Krishna, the deliverance of Sisupala.